Turning now to some politics, and you can't escape it in Michigan this time of year. Some new polling out. Plus, let's take a look at that pricey Senate race. Say hi to Nolan Finley of the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson of American Black Journal. Hey guys, little politics. We've got a boisterous crowd behind us, I'm sure.
They're all talking about Meghan and Harry.
Is that what it is?
That's
I
what
think
it
you're
is.
obsessed with that, Nolan.
He's paying more attention than anyone I know.
Locked in.
Well, I think it's because we can all relate to bad conference calls, and if Meghan was calling into that meeting, I can only imagine what that was like.
Well, we can also all relate to dysfunctional family
Yes.
I think that's what
dynamics,
it is,
right?
yeah.
Like you fight with your family about all kinds of stuff. You say you want to move away, and your grandma's like, "Hold on a second, you didn't ask my permission."
Oh, it's not good, but it
And
definitely
these
is one of
millennials
those
never
things.
leave the nest.
These millennials.
leave, right.
That's right, Nolan Finley. Just send him an email. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Some polling came out. It was a Detroit News Channel 4 Glengarriff poll, taking a look at where we stand right now. What stood out to you, Nolan?
Well, what stood out to me is that I would have thought that the Democrats would be performing much, much better against Donald Trump. I mean, he's had a pretty tough stretch with impeachment. Michigan went heavily Democrat in 2018. And if you look at the spread, except for Joe Biden, I think he was behind 7 to Joe Biden. The rest were pretty much within the margin of error. He's very well positioned at the start of this presidential campaign.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, number one, it all with polling now, it all depends on how you weight it, right? And I don't know, was it Democrat plus what? I mean, It depends on whether you think this will be a Democrat plus 7. That's pretty high, actually. If it was that high and the numbers were that
wrong,
close,
I thought it was plus 7.
but it really does depend on the turnout, right? How many Democrats who sat home in 2016 will show up in 2020, and that's the ball game here in terms of the presidential race. Donald Trump won because so many Democrats did not turn out for Hillary Clinton. You had 20,000 votes disappear in the city of Detroit. That's double what the statewide margin was. If those folks who had voted in 2012 had voted in 2016, he wouldn't have won. So it really is about which Democrat can get Democrats
Right,
up
and I think you
that
saw a
day
report out today
for
from the Free
voting.
Press talking about how their expected turnout in Michigan is supposed to be very, very high.
And that
Turnout hurts the
favors
president.
Democrats very well. I mean, Trump actually got less votes in Michigan in winning than Mitt Romney did in losing, and John McCain did in losing, about the same as McCain. It was a very traditional and normal Republican vote, but the Democratic vote just fell off the charts in 2016.
Well, and you also had this overvote in Macomb, which helped him enormously. It helped him win that county,
but
which
overall, the Republican
Barack Obama
vote
had
was
won
within its
twice.
normal range. The Democratic
the volume,
vote was
yes.
well low.
No, you're right.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the Senate race. We're starting to see a lot more attention put on there, and really the staggering amount of money that's being put into this race. And just so what, the last quarter, John James raised $1 million more than Senator Gary Peters did. What does that mean to you when you look at fundraising, Stephen?
I mean, it's very early, and I think it's too early to project what that means for the race. I mean, it means that it principally means that nationally, I believe, Republicans think this is a seat they have a shot at.
This is a race that they're putting money into.
This is a candidate that they like to try to beat Gary Peters. I think John James is more appealing nationally than he is locally. I think he has a harder time selling people in the state on him as a Senate candidate, just as he did against Debbie Stabenow. But Republicans nationally, I think this is a good race to bet on this early.
But didn't he do better against Debbie Stabenow than people thought he was
Well,
going
I mean,
to?
it was 6 points. It wasn't a razor thin, but he starts this race only 4 points behind Gary Peters. Gary Peters has got a UAW problem because the UAW is heavily behind Gary Peters. UAW leadership. You've got the corruption scandal in that union. I wrote about that this week.
So do you think that's going to make a difference in political clout for the UAW?
I do, and I think the rank and file is not necessarily this time going to follow the advice of their leadership because they're angry, mistrustful of that leadership. It's a place or a group of voters that, as a Republican, you don't necessarily usually have a shot at, but John James can exploit that this time.
Yeah, the one thing that people underestimate about Gary is the relationship he has with those very voters, especially in places like Macomb and going up into the Thumb. They love Gary out there. They love the motorcycle that he rides. They love the way that he can kind of relate to their working class backgrounds. He does really, really strongly in that area of the state, and John James did not in the last race against Debbie Stabenow. I think that could end up being the difference in November, is that John James is unable to close the deal with these people who are, understandably upset with their union leadership, but they do like Gary and they have a relationship.
Well, there's
with
an
him
opportunity
already.
for him there, because James can do something Peters can't. He can attack the UAW leadership while supporting the reforms that the rank and file want.
Yeah.
Direct elections, accountability for spending. Gary Peters can't talk about that and at the same time take checks from the UAW
It'd be
leadership.
tougher, right.
But James can. He can speak to those
Do you think this would
voters.
be the most expensive Senate race that we've seen?
Well,
Absolutely.
each time it's the most expensive,
just keeps
right?
getting
It just keeps
higher and
getting more and more. I mean, the cost of the things that people think matter in these races just keeps going up, and people's willingness to put money in is huge. The other question will be, though, on the Democratic side, the Bloomberg effect. If he doesn't get the nomination, what he's promising to do is to support candidates that will help the Democrats win the Senate and get Trump out of office. He did that in Virginia in 2018. It made a huge difference. I wouldn't put Michigan off of the radar for somebody like that if that comes to pass, if things here are close. That's money that could come into the state that we haven't seen before, and the volume would be impressive.
All right, so this time of year, are you a little bored? More bored than usual, Nolan? There's no auto show right now. This was auto show week.
And look at how nice the weather
I'm
is.
not
this
bored.
week. Southern.
It's actually warm, though. I think they're supposed to get snow
It's a nice
this
break.
week.
But yeah, I mean, it feels funny. I mean, because normally you'd come back, you get a week off from the holidays, and boom, you're right into the auto show. We got to wait a few months now, and it's a long slog.
And we don't know what we're waiting for.
Well,
It's
no,
a
we're
long
starting to hear
slog
a little
between
bit.
here and Easter.
A couple more details, though, on what's going to be happening in June.
Yeah, and it's sounding fun. I mean, they're going to do that at the Opera House or Music Hall in that space on Madison there. They're going to do the German and German and English car show.
Yeah, so if you want to get close to Ferraris, you
Yeah, I
can.
mean,
Yeah,
and
that'd
so
be
they're
cool.
going to be.
Yeah.
They're really focusing on the outdoors that week and bringing people out and around the city, which will be different. It could be exciting if it don't rain.
So I was just going to say, so you're counting down the days. I know you enjoy it.
I think it's a nice break from the show, because I think the weather is always such an awful part of it. And I am excited for summer. I think it'll be different, and there'll be things that we didn't have a chance to do
I'm excited
before.
to be able to show off the city in a different way too,
Yeah,
because
man,
you do go from hotel to convention
right.
hall to
That's
hotel
right.
to airport
Come to
out
Detroit
in
in
January.
June, and
you'll be able to really
it's our
experience
best
a lot of
month.
that.
But there is this now winter void here where there's absolutely nothing going on.
It's quiet. It's
and,
nice.
I don't know.
You just don't like people.
We're going to get cabin fever here.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks, guys.